Good day. Today is July 16th, a Friday, 2021. I'm out here in Colorado in my favorite place to park and camp in the cool weather. Got out of Arizona for a while. Bureaucrats down there giving me gray hair. This happens to be the same spot where I recorded the video about the Las Vegas. Well, no, I recorded it without knowing that the Las Vegas shooting was, mass shooting was being false flagged a couple of years ago. About the bureaucrats, government workers, local government workers too. Their biggest problem, and they got a brain lock about this, so I don't suppose any of them will be able to gain any insight and figure out the problem they're in. It is, they think they are actually working for the government. They actually think they're government employees, whereas they're actually contractors, subcontractors working for a private corporation that's incorporated in with the City of London, and which is a former East India Trading Company. And they're just a service provider. And of course, the elite don't want to tell you. The elite are the owners of that corporation, headquartered in the City of London, Incorporated, which is not a physical place. It's a paper contract. These elite, the owners of this said corporation, are not going to tell their employees what they are, because the employees think that they're, doing righteous things by working for a government of the people and by the people. So, unless some of them are able to accept and do research, they don't have to accept it. They can just do research. As I've told some of them, you can't go to a $200 an hour lawyer or a $400 lawyer to tell you this. You have to go to at least a $2,000 an hour or maybe more for them to tell them the legal aspects of this, the law on how it governs what a corporation is, and that the codes that these based on secret codes that the corporation is run under, and the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Codes. These are not laws. They're just a code that corporation has evolved to keep them, has developed and evolved to keep them running. And of course, the more codes, the stronger the corporation becomes, and the stronger the grip they have over the people that have signed on to that corporation. So, there's no need to succeed from the country, succeed from the government, because all you have to do is revoke your signature to that contract. And you can do this easily because you're basing it on fraud, that it was the circumstances of this corporation were brought to you through fraud and perpetuated through fraud. Now, the other problem you government contractors, excuse me, see, I fell for it. You corporate contractors for service providing to those who sign up, is that the more of you find this out and do your research, the more you, government or subcontractors to the corporation, are going to be enraged and hold the elite accountable for this. So you understand, you bureaucrats are the ones that are going to be targeted first. Just like in any communist regime, the people who helped bring in the Communist Party are usually the first ones that are exterminated by the Communist Party. Just go back in your history. The same with the fascists. They eliminate those who help them seek power, because those that tried the hardest to work to do this are being used totally and fooled, and they are the ones that get pissed off the most. Now, the reason the elite don't want to stop me or the few people that are saying this is because this is what I'm doing and what I'm telling you to get out of the contract is the same thing that the elite do. They never signed up for the contract because they're above that. They in a sense, own that corporation. They're the CEOs. So they're like me. They are not a party to the corporation, the one world government. They're outside it. They control it. They run it, but they never become part of the corporation unless they're really fool or degenerate, which some of them do, and get entangled in that corporation. Now, back in the 1950s, when a lot of this was being cemented in place, the elite were given the choice, or told that they needed to participate in the separation of the wheat from the tares, whatever you want to. It's a separating of who's who. And they went against this because they went against the advice of their forefathers, because they wanted to continue to maintain power, the control. And they actually made deals with entities which are the degenerated forms of people today, of persons today. So they're from a future, not the future, because there is no one the future. So they're from one timeline. And these entities, these future souls, had degenerated to the point where they couldn't procreate, so they needed genetic material from today so that they could help. And the elite, they after listening, communicating with these future timeline, they felt more comfortable because they were more like these. Because in a sense, that's what they were creating. They were the forefathers to these grays, which are not aliens, they're just future. You might say they're the ones that survive the jabs. They're transhumans. So they're not extraterrestrials, they're transhumans. It may be that more of those that have been jabbed will eventually succumb to the micro clotting, but those who survive will, in a sense, be the forefathers of the grays. So, and while I'm on the subject of non-extraterrestrials and non-aliens, the angels or the fallen, well, you can't call them the fallen ones because in a sense they're us, but the angels, which is referred to in the Bibles and many ancient texts, are not aliens and extraterrestrials either, because they're, in a sense, another species. So you can't call them aliens. They're just another form of life that went a different course than us humans. And they maintain a higher dimension than this physical. Let's see, that's 11, 12 minutes. So, what a predicament. The more the bureaucrats fight people like me and patriots, they're more delaying and getting themselves in doo-doo and deeper doo-doo. They're holding up the separation in a sense, because what's happening now with this planned pandemic is the separation is occurring, the wheat from the tares. That should have happened in the 1950s. Those that were in power at the time, even in the late 40s, were setting off atomic weapons in the upper atmosphere. And because it didn't do anything, or to them, they didn't perceive any changes in the next week or two, they figured, no big deal. But just like the difference between turning a car on the road, which is the physical, and turning a big ship out in the ocean, turning the ship, the bigger it is, out in the ocean, the longer it takes. You get a quicker reaction with a car. So the big ship is in the liquid, the second form of matter. And up in the atmosphere, you have an even slower effect of changes. And the higher you go in the atmosphere, the even slower. So decades later, we're experiencing upsets in our weather pattern, and in a sense, it is true that it's man-made, but it's not because of cow farts and gasoline engines. It's mainly due to the atomic bombs that were set off in the upper atmosphere, and it destabilized things, and that's what the forefathers were most upset about, and why they initiated the contact with the elite. And they couldn't contact the general population, because most of the general population is enslaved to the elite. So they're not even open to offering. And that's why you're not getting any choices, because you're chattel. You're slaves because of the debt system, and you've indebted yourself to the elite, who have this fake debit system of tokens, fake tokens that they lend you with interest attached, so you're always in debt to them. And you'll even be more in debt to them if you go along with this great reset that the banksters are planning for you right now, and even the conservative radio personalities are saying, you're going to get this, you're going to get this. They're reinforcing the question of there being another choice, and that you actually have a choice to go against it, to remove yourself, revoke your signature, and therefore work towards a positive banking system. And like I told one of the bureaucrats in Pinal County, Arizona, that instead of helping develop an asset-based bank, she and all her fellow workers, cohorts, are helping to support the debt creation so that they will become greater in debt to their elite. And, of course, the elite will work that much harder to eliminate them when the time comes that it'll be best for eliminating those that really are not assets, that can't really produce a product or a real service that can be sold or traded. Because trade is really what it's all about, and that's why the East India Trading Company became so large, because they eliminated all their competition, just like they're trying to eliminate the competition today. Now, this has all been recorded with the Russian embassy recently, and hopefully they will use it when and if they make a move, because China has, or not China, the Communist Party has made a deal with the elite, with the bankers, and whether they go through it or not, the Chinese are going to take possession of certain assets in this country, because this nation, the people, and the corporation owe them for assets that were given, loaned here, supposedly to repay it. It's just a redo of the Opium Wars, what was behind the Opium Wars. That there was an imbalance between trading between India with the Silk Roads, India and China, and the West. And that's very important, but nobody, or few people, seem to care or understand what that's all about. So these assets that the Chinese will be receiving, they're hoping it'll be land, but more of it will be slaves that will be passed on to the Chinese to pay off the debt. So that's why I'm not hankering to deal with the Communist Party in reporting what all this is, which boils down to the difference between a corporation and a government of the land and a corporation of a maritime sea. Can't be any simpler than that. So happy weather, happy unbalance of the weather system. The chemtrails, they're just attempting to further mess it up, or in their mind, get it back in hand from what the damage was done to the upper atmosphere back with atomic bombs. So there, it's 20 minutes. Good day, and have